all kinds of ways to live in a healthy way that shouldn't take willpower. And when you don't have a routine, you're using willpower to do the right things. I've actually programmed silence and peace and boredom into my life with my worship, my relationship with God, with what I'm trying to do with my body.
Yep.
You know, and life is better. Here's the deal. You got to open your brain in a particular way so that the meaning of life comes to you. But you can't do it when your brain is closed. This stuff is gold,
This
baby.
is gold. Welcome to Showing Up with Andy Grammer, the corner of the internet where we show up for what matters. Today's guest is Arthur Brooks. He is a social scientist and one of the world's leading authorities on human happiness. He is a Harvard professor, columnist with the Free Press, podcast host, CBS News contributor, and internationally acclaimed public speaker. He's the author of the bestsellers The Meaning of Your Life, Build the Life You Want, which he co-authored with Oprah Winfrey, and Love Your Enemies, and then also From Strength to Strength, which is one of my favorite books of all time. I geek out quite a bit in this one. He is genuinely one of my favorite authors, so I hope you get a lot from this conversation. We speak mostly in this about his new book, The Meaning of Your Life, which I think you will all really enjoy. This episode is brought to you by Quo. Try Quo for free, plus get 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/showingup. Arthur Brooks, you are you're one of my favorite people.
Thank you.
I accosted you at a Tony Robbins event.
I love that.
I ran up and I was
Idaho.
like, oh, I don't get super starstruck by anybody, but I was like, your book really got me.
Now everybody knows that Andy Grammer's a nerd.
I'm a super nerd.
I love
That's
it.
part of what this podcast is about.
I know.
The whole idea of showing up is like, how do we show up better in the world? And you're really good at articulating that.
Thanks. And congratulations on the show.
Oh man, thank you so much.
You're going to make the world a much better place.
Yeah, we were talking just before the camera started about how your first, it was your 12th book, but the one that like crushed me. It's one of the only books in my life that I've read, finished it, and was like, run it back, the whole thing again. And it was From Strength to Strength, and it's for strivers. So you want to just give us a little bit of a...
Yeah. It was about how people who are strivers, which is to say they're all in on their lives, which is so admirable, and they work so incredibly hard, but they gear their sense of self-worth typically to the scoreboard.
Yes.
Strivers are the ones who how do I know I'm worth something? Because I'm earning it. How do I know I'm earning it? Because I'm putting points on the board. And how that can be, it's a very difficult way to live because it ultimately will leave a lot of hollowness in your life. And as your life changes, which it naturally does, you're going to find that it gets harder and harder and harder to get those
Also, the
points on
beginning
the
of the
board.
book is all about how you're going to decline way faster than you think you are.
This is a rhetorical device in my business. When you write a book, you got to take a 2x4 and put it across the chops of the reader.
Yes.
So that they'll be like, right? You don't start soft.
No, you come in hot.
Yeah, I mean, and you can start. I mean, you're sometimes your songs come in hot, and sometimes they come in cool,
yes.
right? There's a lot you can do with music you can't do with books because
Totally.
you're asking people to make a commitment to stay with you, and so you need their attention. And this is the whole thing. You start with a threat. Say, "Are you with me?" Like, yeah, okay, it's going to be all right.
But I think a great book, something about the threat really stirs, and there's a connection there, right? which I got from the first book and what I got from this book, where you're like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's not just like an empty threat.
Yeah.
What is the threat of meaning?
So the new book is The Meaning of Your Life, and the subtitle has the threat, Finding Purpose in an Age of Emptiness. Yeah. And it talks about the fact that, as we all know, there's an epidemic of unhappiness, that most people know, young adults or not so young adults, who feel this hollowness in their lives, that they're searching for something and they can't quite find it. Life is like hanging out in an airport lounge waiting for a delayed flight to take off.
Yes.
And you're kind of trying not to get all mad and freaked out and trying not to be miserable, so you're kind of fiddling on your phone and playing little games you don't really care very much about, and you're not getting any updates. And life is kind of like waiting. And you're not in real life. You're kind of simulating life. And a lot of people feel that hollowness, that fakeness of life and going through life like that. And they don't know quite what's wrong. Something's missing. They want to start something big and do something interesting, something meaningful, and they can't quite find it. And so that feeling is actually behind, that sense of life doesn't have meaning, is behind the increases in depression and anxiety today. And anybody who feels that they're normal and there's a reason, and this book talks about what exactly is going wrong and how to fix it.
Yeah, I'm just like, don't let. I don't know. I'm tripping over my words. I feel what you're saying.
Yeah.
And I don't always remember feeling that.
For sure.
And it's such a big word, meaning and purpose, and all these big things. You're like, wait, we actually are in a time where it feels like you have to push upstream to get to it in ways that it didn't before.
That's right. And the fact that it's hard to put into words, there's a reason for that. And the hollowness, the sense of emptiness is coming from a part of your brain where you don't actually form speech, which is the interesting thing. You know, the truth is that the meaning of the sense of your life's meaning comes from the right hemisphere of your brain. The right hemisphere of your brain is where you have questions of why, of mystery and meaning, not where you can articulate much of anything.
Yeah.
You can't solve problems in the right side of your brain. You can understand and live with them. All the things that you really care about, love, happiness, meaning, mystery, that's the right side of your brain. The modern world is bringing you left brain, complicated algorithms and solutions to life's technical problems. When you're looking at your phone, you're on the left side of your brain. You're not even using the right part of your brain to ask interesting, meaningful questions. And so when people say, like, I don't know, man, something's missing, but I don't know what it is. Zoom, 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 zoom. That's the problem, is what it can. So I had to describe, you know, the neuroscience behind that, not in really technical terms, but so people understand that the phone broke our brain. The culture of engineering broke our brain.
Yeah.
The argument that Silicon Valley is going to find a solution to all of life's problems through tech, it broke our brains.
Yeah.
Our brains don't work right. And so we have to understand that and then retrain our brains. And we absolutely can. We absolutely can.
We can. It almost feels like a trope. Like everybody knows that, like, oh, the phone's not good for me.
Right.
But I really liked how in depth you went into explaining how do we get out of it.
Right.
And the doom loop thing is like not my. Sometimes I have many flaws as a human, and then sometimes
that's funny. Me too.
That's
weird.
I have so many flaws, and I have strengths. And what's interesting about this specific moment in time is that the doom loop was not a flaw.
Yeah.
Until now.
Yeah.
And it is now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah. Well, it's the same kind of thing that if, you know, so you know, you've been in the music business for your whole life.
Yeah.
And I was for a lot of my life too, all the way through my 20s as well. So you both of us have known a lot of addicts.
Yes.
A lot of people addicted to drugs and alcohol.
100%.
Right? There's just a ton of that in the music business. And it all follows the same kind of thing. It's okay. It's okay. You party. It's okay. You party. And then you get into the loop and down you go.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it's worked with technology as well. So every alcoholic that I've ever met, they drink and drink and drink, and then something happens. Now, with alcohol, what alcohol does is that it lowers anxiety and it cures boredom temporarily.
Yeah.
So if you're bored or you're anxious, those are the two cases in which you're in danger of alcohol abuse. If you're bored and anxious, that's a really big problem.
Yeah.
And so the problem, and actually it affects the limbic system of your brain in a particular way, where it cuts the connection between your amygdala, which is your fight or flight part of your limbic system, and your prefrontal cortex, which is where you form conscious thought. It just cuts the connection. That's why 2 drinks for somebody who's really anxious and they feel like a new person, until the next day.
Yeah.
And so what will happen is that something will change in, you know, a relatively healthy drinker, where suddenly they start to escalate. And the reason they start to escalate is that, like, now I actually need that. I need that thing to cut that connection. And then it gets worse the next day, and that's the doom loop.
And if you hold the connection, it's just pain?
Yeah. And so, well, what'll happen is you have to,
and then we catastrophize how much it would actually be.
Yeah. Then to get out of it, you have to cut the doom loop, which requires, you know, this is what 12-step programs are doing, and with, you know, detox is doing, et cetera, et cetera. But that's what's happening with our phones.
Yeah.
You know, you use it kind of, et cetera, and then you go through a particularly, you know, boring or, you know, anxious part in your life, and you start to use it more, and then you get used to it. And then you start to depend on it. And the more you depend on it, the more you escalate the use. And pretty soon you're, you know, the reports coming to you from your iPhone saying you're spending on average 7 hours a day on this thing. And you're like, how do I turn off this notification?
I know.
Right? But that's the doom loop. And, you know, that happens with any addictive behavior or chemical, you know, any substance.
Yeah. And I like anything else, when it's so prevalent, it's hard to acknowledge that we're all actually addicted, as opposed to just like, this is what life is.
No, we're deeply.
I'm waiting
deeply,
in line
deeply
and I just like looking at my thing.
Exactly right. And the problem with that is, just as if you were addicted to drugs or alcohol, it's breaking your brain. Your brain isn't working right. You know, you're supposed to be bored. I mean,
how do you actually choose boredom? I think that's a big ask.
Yeah,
we got to do it, but it's a big ask.
Yeah,
in this moment.
I have boredom lessons for my students. So my students are graduate students at Harvard. They're MBA students at Harvard, and I have to teach them how to be bored. And there's a whole bunch of things to do. So here's evidence, by the way, that when do you get your best song ideas?
Oh man, usually I like to write early, but I will definitely, that is such a sacred space that I will turn off everything.
Yeah, so
and I'll hit turn off my phone.
So not when you're looking at your phone.
No, definitely not.
Maybe in the shower.
Right.
Phone's not in there.
Yeah.
Right. So you need more showers, like hour-long showers. So I have my students start working out without headphones.
Yeah.
And that's a really interesting thing because you're actually bringing a whole lot of blood into your oxygen and et cetera, et cetera. I mean, you're using your brain, but without the outside stimulus. You're not listening to a podcast. You will get your best ideas when you're lifting.
Oh, really?
It's unbelievable. Wow. And so I'll recommend to my students that they, at least 2 days a week, they start working out with their headphones. I recommend to people my age that they start commuting without any sound.
I don't know if I can do that,
I know.
Arthur.
You're getting in the car for 45 minutes like, this is my sacred space.
There's no way that I can do that right now. I will.
Yeah.
I don't even going to lie to you right now that I'm not going to do that.
That's hard. It's hard. At the beginning,
what about
it's hard.
long form? Long form's bad?
Well, long form, what it does is just occupies your brain.
Yeah.
And so your brain actually can't get into the default mode network, which is a set of structures in your brain that you need to have flights of fancy, for mind wandering, for issues of meaning. Look, think about it this way. My great-grandfather's name was Leroy Brooks. He was from Olathe, Kansas. Right? Okay. He married Mary Ellen, the sheriff's daughter. They were born in 1862. This is Americana, man.
Yes.
And I can guarantee you there's one thing that Leroy Brooks never said to Mary Ellen when he came home from work. He never said, honey, I had a panic attack behind the mule today.
No, he did not.
Because his brain was working the way it was supposed to. Wow. The truth of the matter is that's a new malady having to do with the flooding of the HPA axis of the adrenals. Everything to do with the fact that we're not using our brains right. But here's the thing. His life was pretty boring behind that mule from moment to moment.
Yes.
But his life overall was not boring at all. Young people today, and all of us, by the way, we're never bored moment to moment, but life is pretty boring.
Yeah.
If you scroll the day away, your life is unbelievable, and you're like bummed out at the end of the day.
100%. So
that's the thing.
That's
the thing about boredom.
Then we need leverage for something that seems really small. It seems like it's a small thing to just look at your phone again.
Yeah.
But you'd have to take some sort of massive action, which I think then you have to get really massive about how bad it is for you to then actually change your habits.
Yeah, it turns out that the habits are not dramatic. We can solve this.
Okay.
Now, so there's basic form protocols that I recommend that are based on the science of this, the neuroscience on this stuff. Number one is first hour of the day.
That's hard, too.
It's hard. And, for people in media, for example, I mean, you have to know what's going on. So look at it for work for 5 minutes and then put it away for the rest of the hour.
Great.
Don't scroll.
Do you actually set a timer?
Sure, absolutely. It sort of depends on your routine. More or less how your routine works, and I recommend protocols for everybody. No, don't make the morning spontaneous. And part of the reason is because there's all kinds of ways to live in a healthy way that shouldn't take willpower. And when you don't have a routine, you're using willpower to do the right things.
Interesting.
Willpower to eat the right things, willpower to get out the door and exercise. No. All routine, all protocols.
Automatic.
So I'm very, very big on protocols. And they all take a certain amount of time. So my protocols are the same, and they have a lot of exercise, a lot of space, a lot of nutrition and supplementation that will actually feed my brain in the right way. But that requires that I use technology appropriately.
Now, a quick moment from our sponsors, and we'll jump right back in. One thing I've realized, whether it's relationships, parenting, music, or business, a lot of life is honestly just about showing up consistently. And in business, sometimes the thing that hurts you isn't some giant catastrophic failure. It's the small stuff, the missed call, the follow-up you forgot to send, the text that slipped through the cracks while you were juggling 17 other things. That's why today's episode is brought to you by Quo, spelled Q-U-O, the business communication system built so you never miss a call. It's basically an all-in-one business communication system that helps you actually stay connected without feeling buried. Your whole team can work off the same number. So if someone calls or texts, everybody sees the thread. Everybody has context, and customers don't feel like they're getting bounced around in the void, which, as a human, is deeply appreciated these days. And honestly, the AI side of it is kind of wild. It automatically logs calls, summarizes conversations, tracks next steps, and it can even help respond after hours so opportunities don't just disappear because you were asleep or on a flight or trying to be present with your family. It works from your phone or computer. You can keep your current number, and it scales really easily whether you're a solo operator or a growing bigger team. There's a reason over 90,000 businesses use it and why it's the top-rated business phone system on G2. So if you're trying to run your business in a more connected, organized, human way, check out Quo. Head to quo.com to learn more. Try Quo for free, plus get 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/showingup. All right, back to the show. Okay, but you're saying you travel. Let's go through it. You wake up in a hotel room.
Like this morning.
Yeah, okay.
So I woke up this morning. I was in Century City. And because we're outside LA right now, but I was in Century City
phone
this
in the morning.
Yeah. So what I did was, I got up. I'm on East Coast. I get up at 4:30 on the East Coast every day. I woke up earlier than that. I woke up at 3:30, so I was actually waking up 2 hours late, not 1 hour early. And the first thing that I did was I looked at the phone to make sure there was nothing going on with my kids or grandkids or my wife. Put it away, and I went to the gym. And that's what I do every day.
With no headphones?
For an hour. Yeah. I'm not listening to anything.
That's impressive.
Now, some days I do because I'm trying to learn something specific.
Yeah.
But a lot of days I don't because I know I need to be creative today. I want to be at my best. Then after that, I got dressed. I took a shower, got dressed. I went to church. I go to Mass every day. I'm a Catholic.
Yeah.
And so that's...
You went today?
Yeah.
Oh, you know where to go here.
It's like the Catholic Church, like Starbucks, man.
That's great, everywhere.
It's a highly uniform product.
That's fantastic.
And high quality.
Yeah.
And it's very easy for me to find a 6:30 or 7 a.m. Mass every place I go.
Oh, that's great.
And I go every day. And if I'm in New York, I have to do it the opposite way. I have to go in the evenings because New York parishes, they tend to do evening masses instead. But I don't make the perfect the enemy of the good, but I'm practicing my religion like you are. You're a traditionally religious person.
Yeah.
And you practice your faith. That's a big part of you illuminating the right hemisphere of your brain.
Yeah.
You're not looking at your phone.
Yeah.
When you're in services. I mean, you're not doing that. And so that's really, really important. So at this point, I've got a bunch of time where I've looked at my phone very little. And I've also had no nutrition at this point. I'm completely fasted, except for some electrolytes and creatine monohydrate and some other supplementation that are good for my brain. No calories. And only then do I take psychostimulants. Do I take any coffee and protein, et cetera? And my brain is ready to go under the circumstances. But I'm marrying all of the biology with the psychology. And my life is better. Yeah, my life is better. And I've actually programmed silence and peace and boredom into my life with my worship, my relationship with God, with what I'm trying to do with my body.
Yep.
And life is better.
Life is better. I think a lot of people would agree. Anybody listening would agree that their life would be better. And it seems like we're just kind of on a conveyor belt. Yeah, we are. We're letting the technology, we're letting life manage us as opposed to managing our lives. Look, our lives are projects. And that'll take away meaning. Yeah, totally. Because the trajectory of modern life that's over-engineered, where basically engineers have said, forget all the complexities of life. We're going to turn them into complications that we can solve algorithmically. Yeah. Download this app, right? Do this thing. And this will solve all your problems. Like, I still not solved. Like, because you needed more apps. It's almost as if you're like, I want a cat because I like cats. Let's just say I really want a cat. And somebody keeps giving you a better and better toaster. Totally. And you're like, I wanted a cat, but this toaster's awesome. Yeah. Okay. You got a house full of toasters. Yeah. And no cats. 100%. I know that a lot of people that are listening to this are the type of person that are going to really like your book. Yeah. And I have a couple notes here of what you spoke about, like irrational knowledge. Yeah. Tell us about that. That doesn't come from the left side. That comes from the right side. And you can't get to the right side unless you stop looking at your phone. Exactly right. So irrational knowledge is something that was a term coined by Leo Tolstoy, the author of War and Peace. Yeah. And he was the most famous writer of his generation. He was nominated for the Nobel Prize in Literature 4 times, which people don't realize how old that prize is, because he was writing in the end of the 19th century. And he had 13 kids. He had a completely functional family life. He was rich. He was famous. And he wanted to kill himself at 51 because he felt like his life was completely meaningless. Why? Because he was a striver. It was all about points on the board. It was like selling books and making money. And I'll find it through my success.
my success will give me the meaning of life, and it didn't. So I turned to studying science. And at the time, the belief was that chemistry and physics and mathematics would show you the true equations of life, kind of like what we're saying engineering will do today.
Yeah.
So just as tech is going to teach you about everything that matters and give you everything you need, it was like math and science are going to do that. That's what they were saying at this point. And so he studied science and didn't get it. He wasn't feeling it. It was the airport lounge. He wasn't feeling it. So like, I guess I'm beyond help. And he was literally planning to kill himself. And so as a last ditch effort, he went away to this little village in Siberia. Left Moscow, went to this little village. Completely illiterate population, peasants, farmers. They didn't have the slightest idea who was walking around their village. This guy with a long beard is like the most famous writer in the world. And they're like, I don't know, they can't read books.
Yeah.
There's no book in the whole village.
Yeah, you're not valuable to us.
Except for maybe the Bible. And they're super religious, and they have these really good families. And they would get together and they have these dances. And what he found was that love and worship were the reason that their lives had meaning and his didn't. And he realized what they had was what he called irrational knowledge. Now, what he didn't know, because neuroscience hadn't been invented at that point, was that they were living with a properly integrated brains, that they knew how to do a lot of stuff. I mean, you ask a peasant, like, how does the wheat grow? He knows.
Yes, totally.
I mean, that's a complicated thing.
Yeah.
I mean, farming is no joke.
Yeah.
We both know farmers, and wow.
Yes.
But they had this knowledge beyond the technical, knowledge beyond the complicated. That's the complex knowledge, the right hemisphere of the brain. Love, mystery, meaning. That's what they really had because of the way that they lived. And that's how we need to live too. We need to live in a new, old-fashioned way.
And I think, can you get any of that from a movie, from a book, from taking in the way that we're taking in?
Yeah.
You can get some of it, but what we're saying is you can't.
It's hard, and I thought about that an awful lot as I was writing my book.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, is this book going to be the solution to it, or is it just another complicated solution to complex problems?
Yes.
And the answer is to say, I'm not going to tell you what the meaning of your life is. What I'm going to tell you is the way to live so that the meaning of your life will find you. Here's the deal. You got to open your brain in a particular way so that the meaning of life comes to you. But you can't do it when your brain is closed. And so that's what it comes down to. That's really what it comes down to.
And we're closing it
like
for hours.
Right. No,
every day.
All day.
Almost all day.
Yeah. All day. I mean, it's like you find a lot of young people are looking at screens 12 hours a day. The only time they're not looking at screens is basically when they're asleep. And a lot of young people, and a lot of people my age, your age and my age, I'm 20 years ahead of you, are looking at their phones at night.
Yeah.
For Pete's sake. That's first hour of the day is important. The last hour of the day is important too.
I'll come clean. The hardest time that I have is like when I get home, my girls just don't care and they won't allow it. They're 8 and 6.
They're like, Daddy, put down the phone.
Dad, shut up, tickle me, get out of it.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty good about putting my phone away when I get home.
Right.
And what do you know? I feel great.
Yeah.
And then at bedtime, I think I'm guilty.
Yeah.
Currently.
So let me make a suggestion.
Yes, please.
So what looking at your phone does, one of the biggest problems it does, one of the pathologies that it introduces is it cuts oxytocin in your brain, which is a neuropeptide that functions as the bonding hormone with people you love.
Okay.
So when you have eye contact with your girls, and it's like the 4th of July inside your head, that's oxytocin. Right?
It is like the 4th of July inside my head.
And one of the biggest problems in marriges is that
my daughter just lost her front tooth, and that's what I thought of. She looks ridiculous, and when she smiles, 4th of July. Yeah.
She's it's like she's second grade, first grade.
She's kindergarten. Yeah.
Kindergarten.
Yeah.
Oh, nice and early. So when one of the problems that couples have is they stop looking at each other in the eyes. When you were first in love. And you're like
all the time
staring at each other in the eyes, and that's because you had oxytocin pumps going in your brains, and then you're kind of like doing stuff, and at night you're lying in bed and you're looking on your phones and the whole thing. No, put it away, and talk to each other, staring at each other in the eyes for 5 minutes. Now, women get 3 times as much oxytocin as men, so your wife will find it a lot better than you, and she'll be like, I don't know why we feel so close these days.
Feel connected
because of that last 5 minutes before you went to sleep. Then turn off the, and you'll be sleepier, you'll be more relaxed, and you'll be happier as you go to sleep.
The epidemic part of it makes it even harder because even if you've decided to make this choice, you're a lot of times in situations with other people that aren't.
Yeah.
And that throws you back into yours.
You got to make a
these
deal.
like weird, hard conversations we're supposed to be having with everybody?
Yeah,
you don't want to you don't want to, I don't know, you don't want to be annoying to everybody.
No, but you set up basic rules. And so, it would be when you have people over for dinner at your house,
Oh, totally.
They don't look at their phones because it's rude.
Yeah.
But when we're having dinner as a family, we might. And so there's a rule of we don't have any phones even on the table. If you look at a phone that's face down on the table while you're eating, that will cut off your oxytocin flow.
Even if it's face
Just
down?
if it's face down, because you'll be thinking about somebody else talking to me virtually. And that cuts off the oxytocin pump in my brain, which is a problem.
Like, hard to explain after reading your book how poisonous, if you're someone that wants meaning in your life, how poisonous the phone is.
Yeah, and
is it the greatest threat currently?
Well, it's the greatest expression of a broader threat.
Okay.
That everything has a technical solution, and that we're not fully alive, and that we need an external engineered solution to the things to the meaning of our lives, to the love in our lives, to the things that the hollowness. And so it's not just the phones, it's the whole idea that how am I going to meet somebody I'm going to fall in love with? An app. I'm going to meet somebody and I'm going to become completely compatible because the algorithms are going to bring us together.
Yeah.
And I got nothing against apps. On the contrary, I've worked with some of them. But the whole point is that you don't know. You can't know.
The story that was really touching to me was how you met your wife.
Yeah.
Can you share that one with us?
Yeah. I mean,
that's not going to happen on an app.
This is pre-app, absolutely. I mean, I was on a concert tour in the Burgundy region of France. I was playing in Dijon. I was playing a chamber music concert. This girl is in the front row smiling at me, and she's like completely beautiful. And I'm 24, and I'm like, I'm talking to her.
Yeah.
And so I went down afterward, and I started talking to her. She spoke 0 words of English. She wasn't French. I learned from somebody else who was there that she was Spanish. She was from Barcelona, and so I asked her out through an interpreter. Hey, you want to go out to dinner with me? And she's like, okay, And so we went out. It was like gesticulation and laughing and. No phones, completely focused on each other. Oxytocin.
Yes.
Or falling in love, kind of.
No Google Translate.
Nothing. And then I went back to the United States,
comedy.
And I'm like,
I
can't stop thinking of this girl. I can't stop thinking about this girl. And so I kind of figured out a way using like a dictionary to write a note and send her to her in the mail, and so I moved to Barcelona.
Yeah,
I moved.
That's
I mean,
badass.
it was because why not?
Yeah.
And so after a few months, corresponding with each other, and then I went to Barcelona to visit, and it was magic. We still couldn't communicate. And I moved over there, and I took a job.
I don't know why this sounds crazy in 2026.
Because
it sounds crazy.
Because life is over-engineered.
People wouldn't do it.
No, because life is over-engineered. Because we're trying to take all the risk out of life by engineering life. And the point is, you can't engineer your life. Your life is this spontaneous adventure. That's the thing. If you're actually going to say, my students will go to me sometimes and say, okay, let me tell you what I'm going to do for the next 30 years. Like, no. You should have an intention, but no attachment.
Yeah.
And the truth is the spontaneity of your life to let life coming at you is really important. But the whole engineering approach, of which the over-reliance on machines is just one manifestation of that, has ruined our brains.
Yeah.
I mean, living in the right side of my right hemisphere was this pulsing mass uniting with hers, and we couldn't even talk. We just had love.
Yeah.
And so it took me 2 years to learn the language, to get down on one knee and ask her to marry me and have her understand what the heck I was talking about.
Yeah.
And she said yes, and that was 35 years
Spanish
ago.
Now?
Yeah, for sure. I'm fluent now because I've lived in Spain off and on for 35 years.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Get into because I kind of get this, and I'm so aligned with you on so much. Give me the meaning equals coherence plus purpose plus significance.
Yeah, when you write about the meaning of life, you better define it.
You better define what it is.
Because like meaning, you better, what is it? So I write books about happiness, and that's what I teach at Harvard is the science of happiness.
Yeah.
Like not woo-woo, not self-improvement, science. Neuroscience and behavioral science. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So you have to define your terms. Meaning is one part of happiness. Happiness equals enjoyment plus satisfaction plus meaning. Those are the macronutrients of happiness. Happiness is not a feeling.
Wait, hit me again. What is it again?
So happiness is enjoyment of life plus satisfaction in your achievements and accomplishments plus the meaning of life.
Okay.
And you need those macronutrients just like you need protein, carbohydrates, and fat to be healthy in abundance and in balance.
Yeah.
And so I have tests that I give to people to see how they could be happier by looking at their macronutrients.
Yeah.
And guys like us, super strivers, we generally speaking are weak on enjoyment.
I would say that's fairly true.
Yeah. Work. We're super high on satisfaction, achievement.
Very high on satisfaction. I would say if I had to do that, I would be super high on satisfaction, and then my meaning is relatively high.
Getting better.
Because it's tied to my It's been forced into my work.
Right. But
even like this
also
podcast, like the fact that I write a song for every podcast forces me.
Yeah. But you have two other things that are going to bring you tons of meaning naturally. Number one, you're happily married and have kids.
Yeah.
And number two, you're serious about your faith.
Totally.
Those are big meaning drivers. Big meaning drivers.
Yeah.
But enjoyment's harder because, if I work a little harder, will it feel a little better?
No, and nobody wants to hear that.
But that's what
from
strivers.
Successful people, they just.
I
Don't
know,
want to
but
hear
but that's the way. That's the internal monologue.
Yeah.
That's the internal monologue. If I work a little harder, will you love me more?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of, and it's like, what do you mean I'm going to have hobbies? What do you mean? What? Not very many people, super strivers, have meaningful hobbies. Really? Some do. But the whole point is that often that's the weak point. Okay,
That's
but
definitely a weak point. And if I do have a hobby, like I love to read books.
Yeah.
Now I've turned it into this.
Shit! You turned it into a job. Nice.
Yeah,
Nice, Andy.
yeah. Well done.
So, but meaning is the biggest problem, especially for adults under 35. This is the biggest problem, is this lack of meaning. Meaning has collapsed. And when I find people who are depressed and anxious, by the way, clinical depression has tripled since 2008, since the introduction of personal screens.
Yeah.
And anxiety has doubled. Self-harm, loneliness, addiction, all have gone up, especially for young adults. Now, also for others, but especially for young adults. The number one driver of those problems is the inability to articulate the meaning of life. So that's why I wrote the book. Life feels meaningless for all the reasons we talked about. Okay, so then the question is, what's meaning?
Yes.
I told you what happiness is.
Yes.
What's meaning? Meaning also has three parts to it. The meaning of life. Now, I'm not going to say what your meaning of life is, but I'm going to tell you what you're looking for. What's the meaning of meaning?
Yes.
Right? So you basically say, I want to figure out how to get to Seattle. You first have to know that Seattle is a city in the Northwest, in the Pacific Northwest of the United States. So meaning is a combination of coherence, why things happen the way they do, why. Second, purpose. Why am I doing all the things that I'm doing? And third is significance. Why does my life matter? The three big whys of life. Why do things happen? Why am I doing what I'm doing? And why does my life matter? Those are the three parts of the meaning of life. And the whole goal of letting the right hemisphere of your brain work is to come to an understanding to live with those big questions.
And the standard mode right now with the tons of screens and the current culture, I would say, just because I live in America, is why do things happen? The general population maybe goes like, I don't know.
Yeah.
The second one is, why am I doing what I'm doing? Because I need to provide. And what's the third one?
I don't know. Is why does my life matter? And like, I don't know. The answer, if you're chronically online, is I don't know, and I don't know.
So then
And if
you
all
get this
you've got
really
is,
empty feeling
that's
after
right.
a long day of scrolling.
Exactly right. That's why. Because, look, life is about those whys. And those whys are going to evolve over the course of your life, but you got to do the work, and the work is joyful work.
Oh, yeah.
But if you don't even know where to go to start answering those questions, to start absorbing those questions, you're going to feel terrible.
Yeah.
You're going to feel, and here's the weird thing, because the internet makes you feel like you're answering those questions. Like you go to Chat GPT and say,
Yes.
why do things happen the way they do? And they'll first start by kissing your butt.
Yeah.
They'll say, well, that's a very smart question.
Very good question. You seem like a really good person for even asking that question.
Man, you know that Aristotle asked those questions? You're as smart as Aristotle.
Yes.
And then it'll tell you 5 ways that philosophers throughout history have dealt with that. They're not going to tell you why things happen the way they do, because they can't. Those aren't questions with specific answers. Here's the interesting thing, Andy. We think that the essence of an agentic AI, the essence of being like a human, is answering questions. But that's wrong. The essence of humanity is asking questions.
Yeah.
Any machine can answer questions. A gorilla can be taught to answer questions. But no organism besides Homo sapiens has ever asked a single question.
Yeah.
Being alive is asking, being a human is asking questions. So AI will never ask interesting questions. AI will answer complicated questions.
And do you find that your students, because the other word I have here is faith, which I thought was really well put together in the book, of the parts of that, which I'll ask you to put together. Do you find that strivers and faith have any sort of connection?
Often they do not. And part of the reason is that a lot of strivers are trying to find what faith would give them through their own achievement.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Success becomes a religion.
Yes.
Effectively. And what success becomes is a substitute for love. What we want is to love and be loved.
Yeah.
You and I believe that God created us to love and be loved.
Yes.
I know a thing or two about
the Baha'i faith.
Baha'i faith.
Yeah.
Because I'm close with Rainn Wilson.
With Rainn, yeah.
And to love and be loved is God's will for us, is what we believe, right? So the problem is when success is really a form of love. It's a funny thing, dealing with strivers, because it's kind of, teaching at the Harvard Business School, but also kind of I specialize in people who doing wonderful things with their lives but aren't happy. What they all have in common is this. There's this childhood story where you're super good at something when you're a kid. Maybe it's music, like you and me. I mean, I won every competition as a kid.
Yeah.
I was the best musician when I was a kid. For some, it's getting straight A's. For some, it's making pitcher on the baseball team. Mm-hmm. It's doing something extraordinary. And you notice that you get the love and affection and attention of adults when you do something unusual. Like, you're so good, you're so good. And your little synaptically plastic brain comes to the conclusion that love is earned. And you say, oh, love is earned. And you go the rest of your life trying to earn love. You try to earn God's love. You try to earn your friend's love. You try to earn your spouse's love. People will marry the wrong person who actually makes them earn love. They'll get the wrong friends who are kind of suck-ups that are trying to make you earn love. And that's a huge problem, because you and I both know that love is a free gift, freely given. It's a grace, baby. It's a grace.
You have me pegged. It's scary.
Well, it's human life.
It's human life, but very specifically there are a lot of things in the Meaning of Your Life book as well that I was like, the part about accepting service from other people is
hard.
Also something
super hard.
I'm really working on trying to do that better.
And letting people love you, allowing people to love you, as opposed to being the special earning provider. People will, very successful men in particular, but women too, but especially men, will screw up their marriages by trying to earn their spouse's love. And their wife will say, I want to see more of you. All you do is work. And say, well, I've noticed that you enjoy the fruits of this labor. And the right response is always, look, I'll spend the money, but I want you more.
Yeah.
But they never believe it. And a success addict will not believe that. It's like, we'll just see.
We'll see. I remember the quote that rocked me. I mean, I like you said, I grew up a Baha'i and had a lot of things instilled in me, and have been very blessed with music to continually be pushed into
because you were super good at it too.
Yeah, even in my work, to like have things that keep me tethered with meaning.
Yeah.
But the quote from the Strength to Strength was when I think it was a high-powered lawyer, and you were talking to her, and then she eventually came to like, I think I'd rather be special than happy.
Yeah.
And that was like, oh no!
Boom. It's a mic drop. Because Andy, me too.
I don't want to be that.
I know, but
I really don't want that. That whatever we got to do.
That scenario, that I saw, that story came at a point in my life after I had been a CEO for 11 years.
Yeah.
And you know how many Little League games I didn't see? You know how many birthdays I missed?
Yeah.
Because I spent that 14th hour in the office as opposed to the first hour with my kids.
Yeah.
Because, you love me yet? You love me yet? Does everybody love me yet? And you're not a human being, you're a human doing.
You're a human doing.
Under the circumstances. It's hard to break out of that. You actually have to have trust. This is one of the most important parts about faith, is you have to learn to trust God to love you. You have to say, God finds me lovable because he made me in his image.
Without doing.
Being.
Just being.
Being is the essence of it. And it's funny because I authentically believe that my wife loves me. I authentically believe that she loves me. But when I'm left to my devices, I'll keep trying to earn her love. And the way that a lot of women do it, by the way, they do the same thing by trying to stay young and beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, am I lovable yet?
Am I lovable yet?
Am I giving off enough fertility cues when I'm 60?
Yeah.
That's not the right way. Yeah. And if you're married to somebody who wants you to give off fertility cues when you're 60, that's the wrong guy.
Yeah.
The wrong husband.
Yeah.
Because he's making you earn his love.
The thing of trying to earn God's love is also, earn is a weird word.
But it's true. Through my virtuous acts, through my incredible excellence, through my studious profession of faith, right? All that. It's like, am I lovable yet, Lord? Am I lovable yet?
I love the breaking down of faith to feeling, belief, and practice.
Yeah.
Give me a little on that.
Yeah,
That's really cool. And then the switch was like, that in my life, the only time I've actually gotten to the feeling was starting the other way. But we think we're supposed to start with oh, I heard something, or I've read something, and now I'm like,
it made me feel a thing.
yeah.
Yeah. So we live
Which
in a
sometimes happens, but it's usually the other way around.
No. So we live in a feelings-based culture, which is hugely problematic. Now, feelings, aka emotions, are activity produced by activity in the limbic system of the brain. And the limbic system is an ancient console of tissue that's between 2 and 40 million years old evolutionarily. Yeah. It exists to translate information that you've gotten below your level of consciousness and turning it into emotions as an alarm system. Positive emotions say you have just ascertained an opportunity, and so it feels good. Approach it.
Yeah.
Negative emotions are you've just perceived a threat. Avoid it. That's all emotions are. They're just a threat system.
Yeah.
I realize I've eviscerated the content of a lot of country and Western music. You've done my limbic system wrong. But anyway, So that's important to keep in mind, because the truth of the matter is that we need to understand emotions in a different way, that they lie to us all the time. If you're going for your feelings in your marriage, if my marriage were based on feeling love, I wouldn't have been married 35 years. I wouldn't have been married 35 minutes. Successful marriages are based on the truth that you don't have to feel it to be successfully married. You don't even have to believe in your marriage to be successfully married. You have to practice your marriage.
You have to practice it.
You practice it every day. And so the unsuccessful marriages will be like, honey, I've been loyal to you 99% of the time.
Totally.
What do you want from me?
Come on. Those are good odds.
Yeah.
Just kidding. I'm joking. Yeah.
And so, but in a feelings-obsessed culture, we believe that we have to feel something all the time, and then we'll come to believe in something, and then we'll have the integrity to practice it based on our true beliefs. And so that's how people think about politics, that's how people think about relationships, and that's completely the opposite of how humans are wired.
Yeah.
So the basis of a successful marriage is you practice it every day, a lot of times you believe in it, and sometimes you feel it. That's a successful marriage. And that's religious faith too. The idea that I'm going to be filled with this flush of faith like an epiphany, and it's going to stay with me. No, that's the functioning of your limbic system.
You know, one of the most important spiritual moments in my life was, the Baha'i faith is in the center of the Baha'i faith is in Israel.
Yeah.
And I went, you're supposed to go on pilgrimage.
I thought it was in Evanston, Illinois.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's a house of worship there too.
Yeah.
But I went at 16, my parents took me.
Yeah.
And I went into a shrine. There's a shrine for Baha'u'llah and Abdul Baha. And
Father and son.
And I go into the shrine for Abdul Baha, and I'm expecting the first thing to happen. I'm expecting to feel it.
Right.
And I get down, and I'm like being very, just like very attentive, and I see other people like weeping with tears. And my eyes like kind of half open, and I'm like, all right. I'm like, I'm ready.
I'm ready, God.
Hit me, dude. Let's go. And nothing happened.
Right.
And I left and had like one of the most awkward conversations with my parents, which is very important at 16. We like went to get falafels, and I was like, I don't know, guys. Like, I don't know about all this. Like, I there's a lot of beautiful writings here,
right.
but I don't really know.
Yeah.
And I left. And then over the next 10 years, specifically the writings of Abdul Baha, make me, when I read them, I like have to go be of service. He's just like super inspiring.
He was a really good writer.
Really great writer.
The son was a much better writer than the father.
I love Abdul Baha's writings. Mm-hmm. So I've started to practice based on the writings. And it would be like, serve the homeless, be of service to other people, and all these things. And I started to develop, it was like early, I had like a crappy apartment in LA, and I would just like go out and buy cases of water and like go give out to homeless people. Or then I started going out to Skid Row and just started practicing the actual doing it. And then, what do you know, that makes me believe more, and then every once in a while you feel it. Yeah. And I went back about 6 years later.
Right.
And I went in, and I put my head down and had like an inkling of that someone was pleased with me, or that something, and then weeping occurs. Yeah, and that's how it goes. You don't it doesn't just like happen.
And sometimes you don't. I mean, I've gone to many shrines and holy sites in the Catholic faith. I've gone to places that the Blessed Virgin Mary has appeared to people. Yeah, and I'll see people just like breaking down emotionally, and I'm like, And sometimes yes, sometimes no.
I can't rule it out. Maybe it does happen to some people.
Yeah. But the whole point is, I go to Mass in the morning and I pray my rosary at night. I practice every day. I practice my marriage every day. I practice my faith every day. most of the time I believe these things, but I have tons of doubts too. I don't have that many doubts about my marriage after 35 years, but I do have doubts about my faith. I'm like, really? Sometimes I have doubts about my belief. And then, but that's okay. Because
so for someone that has a hurdle with the word faith or any of this stuff, it's
okay.
It's okay.
It's completely okay.
We all, everybody does to some degree.
And so I'll send people ask me all the time, it's like, I was raised Catholic and I was raised, in a traditional Hindu home. I don't really feel it. What do I do?
Yeah.
And the answer is, doesn't matter. You just go and sit in the back of the church. Just start praying. What if I don't feel like praying? I don't care. Just pray. Talk to God. And then sometimes the belief will find you, and occasionally you'll feel it, and that's the way you're supposed to pursue anything of real value and something really meaningful in your life.
Is to work for it.
Yeah. Is to actually be the person that you want to be, and occasionally you'll feel like that person as well.
It's funny, even just with songwriting, I think of like the idea is every once in a while over the last decade, I will sit down and write a song, and it's great. But the real truth is that for each album, I read 150. Like I read 100.
Yeah.
And then then every once in a while you're writing it, you're crying, going like, "Oh my God, I think this is so beautiful."
Yeah.
Which aligns with what we're talking about.
It's how books work too. I mean, the idea of just going to sit down and crank out. It's funny because there are musicians. So Mozart, for example, would write horizontally as opposed to vertically.
What?
In other words, he would write a score.
Yeah.
And he would write a symphony.
Yeah.
The Mozart 40th Symphony, a very famous symphony, which it has, he'd be writing, 18 lines in the score. Most composers, they write vertically.
Yeah.
He would write the whole first violin part, then the whole second violin
that's
part.
Crazy.
But that's crazy. I mean, this is not how most people are wired.
Yeah.
I mean, the truth of the matter is that most of us, the way I write my books is I sort of hear it, see it in general equilibrium, and then I write it and I throw it out.
Yeah.
And then I hate it. And I mean, it's like the artistic process is one of practice, general belief and occasional feeling.
Occasional feeling.
Yeah.
The other things to touch on, we all genuinely are in this epidemic where we want more meaning.
We want more meaning. And a lot of people want that through what they're doing for a living.
Yes.
And that's the sense of calling. When you have a holy vocation in your work, it's an incredible thing. But most people struggle with that. It's a very normal thing to struggle with that. And so I have a chapter in the book about how to find your calling. And it can take a long time, to be sure, but most people are looking for the wrong thing. So Thomas Aquinas, the great medieval philosopher, said Aquinas, Aquinas. He says that we're beguiled by idols. And there's 4 idols that will beguile people. They're money, power, pleasure, and fame. Money, power, pleasure, fame.
Yeah.
And that's very good behavioral science. I mean, he was writing this in 1250 or something.
Nailed it.
It's like he nailed it, man.
Yeah.
We have we have the brain scans at this point.
Yeah.
But the truth is, all of us are beguiled by these things because Mother Nature doesn't care if we're happy. Mother Nature wants us to survive the day, get a bunch of buffalo jerky and animal skins in our cave, and pass on our genetic material.
Yes.
That's and whether you're happy or not, that's like your business. That's not Mother Nature's business. And so all of our proclivities, all of our impulses, these animal impulses, are to do the stuff of passing on your genes and surviving.
Yeah.
But we get to have this incredible prefrontal cortex, and I believe we have divinity in us that allows us to live up to moral aspirations, not just animal impulses.
Yeah, I think we've all had experiences where you feel animal, and it's not good.
And so the whole point is, if you're just going after, I mean, look, you have all kinds of ways as a successful and famous musician where you could make more money. You could go on tour more. You're on tour, what, 10, 12 weeks a year?
Yeah.
You go on tour 25 weeks a year. Come on, man.
Keep it going.
You could make more money. You could actually do more commercials. There's all kinds of stuff that come across your horizon that you could actually do. And a lot of people will do this. Like, I don't know why I have this impulse to do it. Why? Because the animal impulse is calling.
Yeah.
That's why people actually do that. But you live up to a higher moral aspiration. And so what does that mean with your work? Anybody's work. I mean, I would be so happy if I had Andy Grammer's success. No. It takes more than that.
Yeah.
And anybody can actually find a holy vocation, a calling, by searching not for money, power, pleasure, and fame, but rather for earning your success, creating value with your life, and being acknowledged and rewarded for it, and serving other people. Those are the 2 imperatives. And I got the data on this. I mean, I was trained as an economist. I've been studying labor markets for a long time. People get joy from their work and find meaning in their work when they feel like they're creating value and they're serving others. That's what it comes down to.
The serving others is really, it's just a hack.
Yeah, and
if you want to feel better, you just like pick someone.
Yeah.
And just be of service.
I know,
and then it happens so fast.
I know, and that's what you were doing.
And I know that, but then I still have to be reminded of it all the
because
time.
because of your ancient brain is telling you that you're going to feel much, much better if you serve you make more money, you have more sway over other people, you're admired by strangers.
It sounds like it's going to be hard work, and sometimes it is, but it always delivers for me.
Always delivers.
Of any truth, any spiritual truth that I practice the most is and it's selfishly practicing it. You know, like when I'm out on tour and I'm bummed out just because of sleep or whatever, or overstressed. I even worry about saying it out loud because it sounds like I'm trying to brag or something, but I will go sing at children's hospitals as much as I possibly can. Because I know, like a good workout, I know that when I leave, I'll feel I feel connected to everything.
That's right.
And this is unbelievable. Yeah,
that's right. That's right. That's this transcendence, which I know we're going to talk about in a religious sense, but there's this transcendence of self by serving others that never fails. It never fails.
It always works.
And yet your animal impulse is to not do it, is to not do that.
Yeah.
It says me, my stuff, my job, my money, my interests, my television shows, me. And that's
we're kind of set up in the wrong way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're set up very beautifully to do what Mother Nature intended for us, which is to survive and pass on our genes. But I believe that we're made for more than that.
Yeah.
I have life goals that are more important than a golden retriever's.
Mm-hmm.
I do. I believe that I'm made in the image of the divine, and the divine can make the conscious decision to live up to higher goals of love, of mystery, of meaning. And I can do that too. It just doesn't always come naturally, and that's okay.
And are there pieces like the macronutrients of how to get the calling or what to do? Like if you're in a job right now that you actually do enjoy, but when we say the word calling, it's I don't know if I call it a calling.
Calling, yeah. So this to do an inventory. Do I believe that I'm recognized and rewarded? I'm acknowledged for the actual value that I'm creating. Number one. And number two is, am I serving? Who and how? Am I serving other people? Who and how? And then if it's not quite right, those are the things to actually go looking for. And also, by the way, there's a gut test to know whether or not that something is going to serve those things when you're looking at something new, whether it's a marriage proposal or a new job, moving to a new city, a new thing. We have a lot of wisdom that's right brain wisdom. So we can't quite articulate it, but we have the feeling.
Irrational knowledge.
Yeah, irrational knowledge.
Yes.
That's exactly right. Well played.
Yes.
So when you have an opportunity, for example, it will be meaningful depending on the three gut sensations. Okay. Number one is excitement. Number two is fear. And number three is deadness. There are opportunities that you could take that make you feel dead inside.
Oh, 100%.
Right? Yeah. I mean, people call me and say, how would you feel about being the president of a university? I feel dead inside. Yeah. I mean, it's great for some people, and I'm super grateful for the president of my university, who is outstanding.
Yeah.
But it's not for me.
Yeah.
Is the whole point. Here's the right combination for you to feel if it's going to be meaningful and it's going to be a calling. 80% excitement, 20% fear, and 0% deadness.
0% deadness. There has to be fear.
If you can. I mean, there are certain things that you do that might make you feel a little bit, as close to that as you can possibly get. And it must have fear. Because if something doesn't have fear, it's not entrepreneurial. It has to have a non-trivial chance of failure. Otherwise, it's going to result in deadness later.
Oh, interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, something is going to be too easy. It's super exciting right now. Or it'll just be fun. It'll be trivial.
Yeah.
It's got to be important enough that you could fail, is what it comes down to. 80-20-0. That's what to look for with opportunities that will be most likely to become a calling.
That's great. The failure piece, at this point now, I think I recognize that. It took me a long time to recognize, it's not even scary, then I don't even want to do it.
And strivers, by the way, are terrified of failure.
Yeah.
Strivers are terrified. Why? Because winning is our persona.
This is what we are, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the whole idea, of should I write that book? Might not be successful.
Might not work out.
I know. Should I write that song? Should I sing that song for the first time? And people are like,
yeah.
Give me some oldies.
Give me some old stuff. I have a song called Wish You Pain, which it's very meaningful to like a very specific group of my fans, and it's around this idea that like that's where you grow from. That's what happens.
And that's really the last chapter of my book is about learning from suffering.
Did you get where did you pull from to get this idea?
So everybody knows that your suffering is your teacher. Deep down, they know that. That doesn't mean you want it. It doesn't mean you're not going to try to avoid it. But everybody intuitively knows that they find the most meaning through the most difficult periods in their life.
Yeah.
And you know, one of the biggest problems with a lot of the way that we treat mental health among young people today is telling them that if they're feeling anxiety or sadness, that there's something wrong with them and we got to fix it.
We got to fix it.
But the truth is that if you don't feel sadness and anxiety, you need therapy.
Yeah.
You know, that's just life.
In a bad way, yeah.
Oh, it's a real problem, right? It's a real problem that we have. And I'm not making light or minimizing mental illness, to be sure, no. But everybody has sadness and anxiety. It's a dial, not a switch.
Yeah.
And so that's the important thing to keep in mind. And that's your greatest teacher is what it comes from. And so I've written a lot about this, about how to deal with pain, about the formula of suffering equals pain multiplied by your resistance to pain. Pain times resistance equals suffering, and because pain is inevitable, it comes from activity in the limbic system of the brain.
Yeah.
You know, it's activating parts of the brain that are dedicated to negative emotions. It's going to happen because you're living in the world, having experiences. You decide on your resistance to the pain, however, and the elite athlete of meaning is somebody who has high pain and low suffering at the same time. Pain is high, physical pain, somebody's died. But their suffering is much lower because they've learned non-resistance is the secret to actually having meaning in their own lives. But that's hard.
How do we do that?
That's a hard thing to do. That takes.
Want to get.
Well, you get 90 years on the planet, baby.
You said the word elite. My striverness was like, oh, go
I know.
on.
Like I want to do that. It's
Go
like,
on,
how can I be the best at boredom? You know.
Are there practices to get better at high? One more time. It's high
pain, low suffering.
High pain, low suffering.
High pain, low suffering.
Yeah, this is when I read like Thich Nhat Hanh or. The Dalai Lama you talked about. They seem to be incredible at this specific thing.
I mean, this is, as a Christian, we worship a man who's suffering and whose life was dedicated to non-resistance to the suffering of the world. Because that was the essence of what it meant to be the Son of God, to be divine. Yeah. That's the lesson. It's like the lesson of Jesus is not just nice words. Yeah. No. It's non-resistance in the face of the suffering of the pain of the world.
Where my head goes is, okay, are we going to not caring?
No, you care. You care. But what you say is that this is, look, I take a Tylenol if my back hurts. Yeah. And that's a form of trying to lower the pain. But a lot of the time, pain cannot be reduced, and railing against it is wasting my suffering. Is wasting my suffering from actually helping to find the meaning of my life. And it's hard to do. It's not like I'm so great at this. On the contrary, I'm running away from my pain all the time, just like everybody else. But you get 80 or 90 years on the planet to figure this out. Yeah. And this is what I believe that's what this stage is supposed to teach us. This stage is supposed to teach us that, and in my students will say, well, Professor, are you saying I should go looking for suffering? I say, oh, don't worry, it'll find you. You'll get it. The question is, what do you do under those circumstances? What do you do when suffering inevitably finds you? How are you going to turn it into your teacher? That's what Tolstoy found in The Village. Yeah. That's what Dostoevsky found over the course of his life.
And we found, just because you're so you have all the hacks, is this meditation? Is this?
There's a lot of ways to do this, of course. I mean, I teach metacognition to my students, which is to move the experiences of pain from your limbic system into your prefrontal cortex. To say, Arthur's feeling sad and angry today. Why is that? And understand, that's how Vipassana meditation, which is an attitude of self-observation non-judgmentally. Yeah. That's how that works, is to actually move it from one part of your brain to another part of your brain. But that's how prayer works for me and you. Mm-hmm. That's how meditation works for us. That's how therapy is supposed to work when it's done properly. Yeah. Is to actually learn from this and say, how interesting this puzzle. What is this actually trying to teach me? What does this actually mean? Where is it appropriate for me to act in a different way? Maybe it's appropriate for me to take a Tylenol. Yeah. But the whole point of it is that this is your opportunity for understanding, and the understanding itself is a form of non-resistance. Yeah.
Okay, hit me with the 3 big questions, which is interesting. The first one is, what is my life actually for? That's an interesting question.
Yeah. What is my life for? What am I living for? This really boils down to this 2-question exam I give my students. Why am I alive? And for what would I die?
And the argument is, because I have a lot of friends that I love deeply that are incredible people that are like, I'm just thinking of one specific right now. It's like, why?
Yeah.
Why are we doing this?
Yeah. And why would we do this? And the answer is because this illuminates the right hemisphere of your brain such that meaning can find you. And this is how you know that there's a crisis and you need more work. This is how you know the source of the sense of emptiness in your life. You know, and I would ask my kids to write a business plan on how they're going to answer these questions. Where are they going to go to get the knowledge adequate to understand the answers to these questions? And, you know, it's funny because I became completely committed to the idea that it wasn't college, right? Maybe my oldest son went right to college, had a great experience, but my second son wasn't ready for college. I wasn't ready for college.
Yeah.
I screwed around. I went to Cal Arts. You know, I wasn't ready. Was on academic probation at the end of a year. I was taking mostly Javanese dance and North Indian classical drumming.
Sick.
It's like, yeah, man. And it turns out you should take required classes.
Yeah.
And so then that's when I became a professional musician and where I started to find the answers to these questions. So my son Carlos, I mean, he worked on a farm in Idaho and then he joined the Marine Corps to find the answers to these questions. And he found the answers to his questions. He came out at 23, married with a son.
Wow.
Now he's 25 and has 2 sons. He's got it going on.
Yeah.
He's now finally in college, right? But he's also answers to the questions. You know, why are you alive? Carlos will say, because God made me to serve other people.
Yeah.
And he believes it.
Yeah.
For what would you give your life? Well, it turns out he signed a contract for that with the U.S. Marine Corps.
Wow.
You know, for his faith in his family, obviously, but also for his fellow Marines and for the United States of America. Those aren't the right answers for everybody watching us right now.
Yeah.
But those are good answers. Those are solid answers. And so here's the adventure. Where are you going to go and what are you going to do to find the answers to your questions? Why am I alive and for what am I willing to die?
Yeah, and how are you gonna hold enough space? I think that's one that I feel a little bit just I want to leave everybody on the note of like, oh my God, go do this.
Yeah,
because it's so easy to slip back into just a small scroll.
Yeah. No, I know.
How do we create enough leverage at the end of this podcast to be like, oh my God, spend some time with yourself.
Right.
Even though it feels weird right now.
Right. Write down those 2 questions.
Well, they are.
Why are you alive?
Why are you alive?
And for what would you give your life?
For what would you give your life?
You know, these are big why questions. Any big why questions. And tomorrow morning, get up a half hour before dawn, okay, without your phone, and go for a 1-hour walk while the sun comes up. Easier in California than some other places,
yes,
right? And let the rising sun at a horizontal orientation enter your eyes, which will have a profound neurocognitive impact on your brain. And consider these questions. There's no devices. You didn't take your devices. You're not listening to anything at all. You're listening to the sound of the gravel under your feet. And you're thinking about bigger things. Now, again, don't be frustrated when your mind wanders. The mind wandering per se is the point. Gently bring yourself back to these questions. That's all it is. Just bring yourself back to these questions. What you're doing is you're illuminating the right side of your brain. And here's what happens. That's a pilgrimage, by the way. That's how pilgrimages work. You're not going to find it. It's going to find you when you create a sufficient aperture where something can fall in.
Yeah.
And that's the assignment. And, you know, when young people, you know, I get 15 emails a day from young people, you know, like, advice, professor, advice.
Yes.
Right? A lot of young guys who get out of college and they feel aimless and lost. And I'll say, look, they say, you know, what's the right workout? How much creatine monohydrate can I, you know, I know a lot of the biology, right?
Yeah.
I'm a nut for this stuff. You know, I can give them a hardcore protocol, 5 steps. Make sure you have, 200 grams of protein and 4 boluses. No, I say for the next 30 days, I want you to get up a half hour before dawn, and I want you to walk without devices. Walk without devices, considering why questions. And after 30 days, I want you right back to me. And inevitably, they'll say, it's weird. It's weird. Life doesn't feel grim. I feel like I've got it going on. I enrolled in school. I found that the job that I thought was stupid actually wasn't.
Yeah.
I'm talking to my mom again. Why? Because what you've done is you've unbroken your brain.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to do.
That's what we need to do. I want to hit the last two, the big questions I've written here. I think they are from the book. What's my life actually for? What am I trying to contribute? Where do I feel called to show up? Is that from there?
These are real service questions. This is in the way that we transcend is not by transcending just into the divine, transcending ourselves in awe of something greater, but transcending ourselves in service to others.
Yeah.
By asking, what more can I give?
What can I give?
Why am I? What am I here to do? And how can I give more? Now, there's an interesting twist to that. You found that what you were supposed to do on particular days was to pass out bottles of water to people on Skid Row on hot days in LA. But there's one more twist to that we've kind of touched on, which was that you're here to complete other people by allowing them to serve you. And that's the hardest thing for the striver.
Yeah, I don't like that, but I'm getting better at it.
Yeah, and that's I talked about that in the book when I found that out. I learned that when a kid confronted me after a lecture and saying, you saying that you should allow people to serve you. What about people who have nothing to give you, like a homeless person? Good question. So what I tried, this is an experiment. I'm an experimentalist. N equals 1, me. The next time I gave something to a homeless guy, went into a CVS and got him a sandwich and came back out. I said, can you do something for me? He said, what? I said, would you please pray for me and my family? Because I need that. Andy, I need that.
Yeah.
God hears the cries of the poor. Either I believe it or I don't, right? It makes a nice bumper sticker. That was, by the way, today, the day that we're recording this show, in Mass, we pray a psalm every day. That was the psalm today. God hears the cry of the poor. Either I believe it or I don't. And if I believe it, then that's worth a lot more than a sandwich.
Yeah, totally.
And I need his prayers. I needed his prayers. And it's like, you should have seen the look on his face. And that's what I do.
Yeah.
Everybody deserves to be able to give. That's the essence of dignity, is to be needed.
Yeah.
You know, we throw people away all the time. We treat them like liabilities to manage. That's how we treat poor people. It's how we treat people at the margins of society. And to love them is to need them. And each one of us can actually do that today. They get a bottle of water. You get prayers for your family.
Yeah, that's a good deal.
It's game on, man.
Okay, so leave everybody. I think the people that listen to this are really on board with most of what you're saying, and are the type of people that really want to live meaningful lives. So give us your last pitch on how someone in their car that's listening right now can step closer to living a more meaningful life.
You want to be happy? You want to find meaning? Use things good. You know, if they pay you a lot of money, that's awesome. That's great. And you should enjoy those things, and you should be thankful for those things. Use things, but don't love them.
No.
Love people. People are made for loving. And you know what's made for worshiping? The divine, as you understand the divine.
Yeah.
That's all it is. That's the 3-part formula. Just live by that and watch meaning chase you down.
Chase you down.
Yeah.
Arthur, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for what you're doing.
I appreciate you.
I just love it.
Oh, amazing.
Thank you so much for listening. My way of showing up each episode is by writing a bespoke song for someone in this community. You have all been sending me incredible voicemails, and I have been weeping ever since this started. So here's this week's song.
Andy, my teen son has been having some pretty serious mental health struggles. He had to be hospitalized. This is a kind of a story of how he showed up for his roommate in the facility. So as he was feeling better, even when he wasn't feeling better, he made a point of staying up late to listen to his friend share his hardships. God, it makes me want to cry. And made a point of spending time with him. And he showed up for this friend during a time when he was struggling. If this turns into a song, somehow capturing that feeling of when someone who's been through hell, walking out of the flames, like barely recovered themselves, are carrying buckets of water for those who are still consumed by the fire. So, all right. Love you too. Thank you for doing this. Bye, Andy.
Oh my God, that is so sweet. This is for your son. I want somebody who has has been through hell to tell me that I'm gonna be alright. Advice, it never really sits that well unless it's coming from someone who's lost the fight. I wanna hear from the sinners, the quitters, the late night admitters that they done more wrong than done right. The honest assessment, how they learned their lessons the hard way and still found the light. The best hearts are broken. The best hearts are broken. So Lord, I pray that I can love like the ones who've been destroyed and stood back up and somehow stay open. The best hearts are broken. I love you. Your story touched me. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you so much for showing up for us. If you want to be a part of the community we're building here and you want to support the show, please go follow me, Andy Grammer, on YouTube and Showing Up with Andy on socials. I've invited all of you to leave a voicemail nominating someone who's shown up for you, shown up for their community, or just needs a little pick-me-up, and I will select a voicemail and write a song for every single episode. To leave a voicemail, call 917-540-0849. Thank you so much. I love you all so much. Keep showing up.